So here I have a model of a lithium atom, and this is a neutral atom, and so that means you have the same number of protons and electrons. Now, if we have lithium, it commonly actually loses one electron, and you'll notice that it instantly becomes positive as an ion. That's because it has 3 positive charges and 2 negative charges, resulting in a net charge of 1 plus. Positive ions are called cations. So now here I have nitrogen, and nitrogen has 7 protons. You can see 7 plus charges here. And as a neutral atom, it would have 7 electrons. However, nitrogen wants to completely fill its second energy level. And in order to do that, we're going to have to add more electrons. So we're going to fill that second energy level up. And now I have 3 more electrons than I do protons. That gives it a 3 minus charge. As a negative ion, we call this an anion. So let's talk about ions. So ions involve the gain or loss of electrons. So if we had an atom that had 10 protons and 10 electrons, we can look at what happens when electrons are gained or lost. And so when they have the same number, then the charge will be 0. If this atom lost 2 electrons, then it would end up with a 2 plus charge because it would have 2 more protons than it did electrons. If this atom gained 3 electrons, then it would end up with 3 more electrons than it has protons, and it would have a 3 minus charge. With charges, we actually write the number and then the charge. So we have sodium, and sodium has 11 protons. Now, as a neutral atom, sodium would have 11 electrons. But in all actuality, sodium likes to lose 1 electron. So we're going to take 1 electron away, and we're going to have just 10 electrons. So having lost an electron, it now has 1 more positive charge than it does negative charges, and that results in a net charge of 1 plus. Now, we're not going to write a 1, we're just going to write a plus sign. When we're writing charges, we put them right here in the top right corner. So Na plus shows us that we have a sodium ion. Chlorine is an example of an anion. So chlorine has 17 protons, and as a neutral atom, it would have 17 electrons, and it tends to gain 1 electron. And so it will have 18 electrons. That is 1 more electron than our 17 protons. Therefore, it has a 1 minus charge. We write that charge right here by putting a minus symbol. And again, that top corner there is where we write the charge. And so what happens is anions and cations end up being attracted to each other. So your sodium, with its 1 plus charge, is going to be attracted to your chlorine, which after it gains an electron is negatively charged, and we actually call it chloride when it becomes an ion. So these two are attracted to each other because the sodium has a net positive charge and the chloride has a net negative charge, and that causes our cation, sodium, to be attracted to our anion, chloride. So our sodium is attracted to our chloride, and that is our anion. And when these two come together, they end up having, again, a neutral or a charge of 0. So we write sodium chloride like this. We write NaCl. And that is the formula for sodium chloride. The cation and the anion came together and their charges canceled each other out, so you now have a charge of 0. So one way to remember this is whenever you're asked, do you want the good news or the bad news? Most often people say they want the good news first. And so we put the good news first, that's our cation, and then the negative anion comes next.